To all the parents of Reddit, please keep your children under control. Because of a careless parent, I am now disabled. It's another night where the pain won't let me sleep. Might as well get this off my chest while I wait for the painkillers to kick in. I, 22F, used to work at a thrift store close to my house from December of last year until April. I used to go thrifting there with my mother, so I applied out of nostalgia. The work was fast-paced, but I liked it. I would have liked it more if the clothes were cleaner, if the pay was more than minimum wage, and, if there were no kids who would attack you. We had many regulars whom, with time, I became acquainted with, mostly because I was the only Spanish-speaking worker on the sales floor. One of them was a mother of 3, whose children always caused trouble, running around the store, breaking stuff, and, no matter how many times I told the mother to keep her kids in line, she'd only scold them for a second, then let them cause havoc around the store again. I never would have guessed that one of her kids would attack me. This wasn't the first time the kid hit me, but it was the first time when it genuinely hurt. I don't know what that kid's head was made out of, but when the kid headbutted me full force on the hip while I was attending to his mother, I curled up and cried from the pain. I had to prevent the child from hitting me again while his mother was still looking at the red dress I handed her. My only guess as to why the kid attacked me was because I had the red dress in my hands, and the kid was pretending to be a bull. He was doing that foot thing you see bulls do in bullfighting. My managers didn't call an ambulance for me or refer me to a work accident doctor like they should have. I had to limp to my car and drive myself to my family doctor, where I waited 2 hours to be seen. I was given an X-ray, ultrasound, MRI, and painkillers. They detected an ovarian cyst, most likely from the hip. Doctors thought that was the source of my pain, but it healed, and to this day, 6 months after the work accident, I'm still in pain and I still limp. I'm currently in a workers' compensation case with the thrift store's insurance, only because the mother fled when my co-workers confronted her and never came back. My lawyer said that when the case is over, I'm most likely going to be on some sort of disability pension, paid by the thrift store's insurance company, until, or if, I make a full recovery. It's been 6 months with no signs of getting better. I can't walk long distances, I can't sit down for long, I can't crouch, I can't jump, I can't run, and I can't lay on my left side anymore. The pain won't let me sleep. I constantly feel something whooshing around my left hip joint, and I have nightmares about that day. What I'm trying to say is, I really miss the mobility and life I used to have. My life is just constant pain now, and it's making me depressed. So, to all the parents who might see this, please, for the love of God, keep your children under control. Thank you, everyone, for your comments, support, and advice. I'm really grateful to all the kind people here. I am removing the post because I started to get threats from users who are calling this all bullshit. I know now there's no correlation with the ovarian cyst and the work accident, but my doctors had told me it was. I'm sorry for the confusion. I know it all sounds absurd, but it happened, and I'm in pain every day because of a careless mother and her reckless kid. I simply just wanted to get this off my chest. I'm going to keep the post up, purely because so many comments were so helpful, and I want to mention some things commented here to my lawyers. Again, thank you to everyone who gave me advice and shared similar stories. I'm feeling hopeful and will advocate more for my health. Update 1, it's been around 3 months since I posted here ranting about my work accident. If this is your first time seeing this, I had a work accident at my old job at a thrift store where a kid who was known to be trouble headbutted me in the hip, and the mother denied it all and fled. Ever since, I have been more persistent with workers' compensation after everyone told me that I was misinformed and not represented well. I waited this long because just this month I got the news of what's really wrong with me. At first, I was told that my ovary and the cyst around it were the cause of the pain, that the kid hit me so hard that it caused a cyst to form and pop. Just thinking that's what I believed is silly, but, like I said, I was misinformed. 2 MRIs with contrast later, they figured out I had a labral tear on the left hip joint, as well as hip bursitis, a swelling of the bursa. I haven't been able to work or walk well since April of last year. I've been taking it as calmly as I can. But finally, I'm going to receive treatment, 2 steroid injections to the hip. The doctor is hopeful that my labral tear will heal, but he warned me the bursitis might be permanent. That's where I am right now. I'm just waiting for the shots to get approved. I did start receiving TTD checks, but the pain is still a 24/7 thing. At least my muscle relaxants help me sleep through the night. Final update, I don't know if anyone would remember the post I made 2 years ago on a different account. I had to delete my old account since I was getting way too much hate for judging the mother of the kid who injured me. I'm talking hundreds of people arguing in the comments and many nasty DMs. However, after 3 very long years, it's nearing its end. The first 3 paragraphs are a recap, I used to work at a very popular thrift store chain in the US. I started working for them when I was 21 in 2022. It was a very underpaid job, but I enjoyed it. Being the only Hispanic on the team meant I was the person who had to help Spanish-speaking clients. Most of them were incredibly nice, but a frequent shopper, a mom of 3, none older than 10, would give the store a horrible time. She'd let her children run around the store unattended. They'd climb the clothing racks, cause havoc in the toy section, and damage whatever they could. I felt more like a babysitter at that point, and, of course, no matter how many times I'd tell the mother to tend to her children, she never once listened. One day in April 2023, the same mother and children came to the store, and the mom had questions about a dress she saw on the racks. She handed me the dress, seeing if I could figure out how to style it, and I swooshed it around trying to figure it out. In the corner of my eye, I saw her middle child, maybe 6 years old, doing that same mannerism bulls do before they attack the matador. I didn't mind it and continued helping the mother when the kid suddenly rammed into me full force with his head, right on my left hip joint. Only the people who have experienced a labral tear know how that felt. I couldn't fathom how much pain I was in over something so ridiculous. The mother didn't even berate her son or tell him to stop. In fact, the kid tried ramming me a second time, when I had to physically hold his head and yell at the mom to keep her child away from me. The rest was such a haze. I don't remember asking to go home early, but I ended up at my primary doctor, too broke to go to the ER. They thought this was an ovary issue at first. I used up all of my sick days trying to recover, and I quit my job once my coworker told me that both of my managers were speaking ill of me, insisting I was faking my injury. The mother never came back to my workplace either. Once my savings was emptied out trying to figure out what was wrong with me, my family convinced me to open a workers' compensation case. It took a little over a year to figure out I had a hip labral tear and minor damage to the femur. My job's insurance and their own doctors insisted and swore for years that the injury wasn't related to the accident, and that I caused my own labral tear by being obese. Luckily, my workers' compensation doctor always had my back, and I'm forever indebted to him. I was put on a no-work notice for 3 years, receiving disability checks. However, my job did not care and pushed to place me under light work this entire time, since they're a very well-known company for hiring disabled people. I'm telling you, as someone who's worked there and saw how they treat the disabled and seniors, I was not going to be comfortable there like they insisted. For 3 years, my life was on hold. I lost my early 20s to this case. I was too scared of going outside because of private investigators, I was in too much pain to do anything, and I lost my dad during this time too. I had planned to kill myself when I got too drunk at a Christmas party and told my plans to who drunk me thought was Elijah Wood. I was put on suicide watch, and with my boyfriend's help and my siblings' support, I got a little better. For 3 years, my old job's insurance denied the surgery I needed. I lost enough weight to undergo the knife, but they held to their guns right until the end that my labral tear wasn't related to what happened at my job. I decided I couldn't take it anymore and decided to settle my case instead. My lawyer's assistant mentioned this idea to me, that I could settle and get the surgery in my hometown in Mexico, recover both my mind and body. This idea sold me immediately. I didn't even consider this was an option. Yesterday, during the final mediation, my job's insurance finally admitted that the injury was related to the work accident and offered to schedule the surgery right then and there instead of settling. I didn't even consider it. My old job's insurance company is actually evil and tried settling for only $20,000 until my lawyer managed to double it and then some. It does suck that after 3 years, I settled for $58,000, and that's before legal fees. However, I am free from Evil Deed Incorporated, and that's worth more than any amount of money in the world. Some might call me stupid for settling for so little, but you try being belittled by every doctor they brought forward, pointing at your weight instead of the actual injury for 3 years. Try enduring shots to the hip joint without prior notice or consent, and then try driving home because transportation was never approved. Get denied physical therapy or occupational therapy every single time, no matter how many doctors insisted I should get on it. I wasn't even on any arthritis medication despite my record saying I've developed severe osteoarthritis and hip bursitis. I took enough ibuprofen to give myself long-lasting stomach damage. I even gave myself a right hip injury from overworking it all these years. I want full control of my medical treatments. I don't want to be scared of going outside anymore. I want to catch up with everyone my age. For the first time in years, I'm hopeful about my future. Once I get the surgery, I want to fulfill my goal. The whole reason why I even started working was to afford college. When I'm physically better, the first thing I'll do is hike the mountain I couldn't before, because that's where my dad's ashes are. The nightmare is nearing its end. I survived. Comments by Up. The mom actually came back the very next day as if nothing happened. Instead of immediately calling the police, my coworkers surrounded the mom, yelling at her, and tried to trap her in the store until the cops arrived. She obviously got really scared and managed to flee before they could even call the police. I tried working for a week after I used up my vacation days, just to see if she'd come back. However, once I realized she wasn't coming back, it wasn't worth the hip pain to continue working. Once I heard that managers were gossiping about my injury, I quit. I heard years later that 2 other co-workers walked out the day after me in solidarity. Edit: forgot to mention I wasn't there when the mother came back to the store, for obvious reasons. If I had been there, it would have gone way differently. I forgot to mention that for the first year and a half of my injury, I was a caregiver to my dad, who later died of pulmonary fibrosis. Looking back, I genuinely don't know how I managed to do that. The day he died was the day I found out I was being followed by private investigators. My dad was already in at-home hospice care. My siblings were taking turns during the night to monitor him as he was deteriorating fast since entering a coma-like state where he couldn't stay awake for more than a couple of seconds. I stayed up with him from 4 a.m. until I had to leave for my workers' compensation doctor's office to receive the news about the private investigators, which I was unaware of. The last words I told him were that I'd tell him all about my doctor's visit when I came back. He nodded and smiled. I kissed his forehead, and when I came back home, already mortified over the private investigators, my dad was already gone. I don't think I can ever forgive my old job for robbing me of the last moments I could have had with my dad. Everyone but me managed to say goodbye. My caregiver and survivor's guilt is still pretty strong, even after 2 years since his passing. When my lawyer told me that if I went ahead with the surgery with them, they'd expect me back to work, I decided to settle, cut ties forever with them, and never return. I don't want to return ever, not only because of the mistreatment, but because I never managed to properly say goodbye to my dad. Goodwill, man.